Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. So this presentation is about architectural visualization pipelines. Last year, I gave a talk in the theater. It was 15-20 minutes, so it was a quick overview of what we do as architectural visualization. So this year, the idea is to dive a bit deeper into our processes. Of course, there are some, we have 50 minutes, so it will be like, again, not as deep as maybe we would like to. So first disclaimer is like no explosions, no anime here, it's just pure architectural visualization. The second one, every time I just talk about being organized and tidy, doesn't mean the alignment in the presentation. Presentation is what what I was able to do in the last days. So yeah, we were like rehearsing it with my girlfriend, and she almost died of disalignment, I would say, of things. So be easy with me in that sense. So this was last year talk. About the overview of the processes. It was mainly showing some projects that we did and so on. A bit about me. I am Pato Calvelo. Everyone knows me as Pato. I am an architect since 2005, and I started to do architectural visualization like almost 20 years ago, a bit more like everyone in architectural school does for get some money, just learn some stuff. And then in 2006, I just thought it could be like something that is combining a lot of the things I like to do, like architecture, drawings, technology. So we started to do it a more professional way. Around that years, we were using like what is known as industry standard, that is software from commercial software, 3ds Max, V-Ray, Corona as render engines. But then for different reasons, more like going towards open source, we started to switch with personal projects to Blender, doing kind of things not related to work, but to learn the environment. At that moment, yesterday, we were like having fun because like all the different interfaces. So we started when it was 2.49, I think, and it was kind of, okay, this will be difficult, but then 2.5 made it a bit easier, and then 2.8 much easier again. But then we kind of really set a point in 2022, 2020 that really everything that we need was there already. It was not an excuse. So 2020, 2021, we started to do everything in the Blender and Cycles mainly. So these are some examples of our work. Mainly we work with the residential buildings. We work with the real estate companies, interior designer, architects, basically. So this is an apartment interior. This is kind of different examples of other different stuffs. Of course, we need to clarify it all the time. What we do is architectural visualization, more sometimes called like photorealism. So what we try to do is just to replicate how a photo looks, right? So it's not like perception. We try to replicate what you see when you take a photo, like in a more professional way. So the idea now in this talk is to go or dive a bit into the processes. I divided in these main categories, so we can go step by step. So they are importing, modeling, texture mapping, assets, lighting and composition, and post-production and rendering, right? So importing modeling. So this is a huge part on our workflow, because mainly we work with architects, or architects are the ones giving us the material to start from, because we are architects, but we are not involved in the design of the building or any related to that, mainly on all the cases. So we need to get information to build the visualization. So usually we get like from the being families, we get the from Revit and ArchiCAD. That's the main programs that are used in the BIM. So we try to get IFC files. Then we have a lot of studios that are still working with SketchUp, so we get the SketchUp models, Rhinoceros, and then, of course, for other software, we have these exchange files that are FBX, OBJ, and USD. For the IFC files, I have to thank the people working in this project that is called Bonsai, that is the part of the Blender BIM ecosystem. For us, it's a huge saver. We kind of ask the client to give us an IFC file that is the shareable format for BIM. And then we can open it as IFC project in Blender. And why is this so important for us? Because mainly if we get probably an FBX from a client from Revit, we will get like pipes from electricity, everything's geometry that we don't need, so it will take a lot of time of cleaning, so that's kind of really take down in the process. So if we get the IFC file, not all studios do that, but when we get to the IFC file, it's much easier to work with. We can hide families, so it's much easier process. So you can get it from the extensions. It's there in the Blender extensions. If not, you can go to the page, download it, and install it from disk normally. So the other thing is to thank is the people developing this add-on. I don't know if they are just making updates, but we use it every time when we have these kind of SketchUp files, and it's working quite decently. So the good thing about this is you can natively import SketchUp files into Blender too, so that's quite handy and helpful. What you get, it will depend a lot. SketchUp works in a different way it's not meshes, it's kind of another way of modeling, and sometimes it's super messy. But if it's not organized properly in groups, mainly like all these kind of SketchUp files are with material, so Shift and L control by material, and then you can at least separate them in different layers and group, and that make it easy. Always is a huge thing for us what geometry we are dealing with, because of course this geometry is not good to work, but all in all, it's a huge time saving if you use this. And of course, if you need more detail in the windows, so that you can just work on that part only, so you will save a lot of time at the end. From Rhinoceros, a few years ago, it was a hype in architectural world with the grasshopper and this kind of parametric, so we get a lot of that from architectural studios too. So here is a bit to playing with the parameters and trying to get. One good thing to say is a lot of, sometimes as Rhinoceros work with the instance stuff, you can get instance set collection, so be careful with that, because you move one could affect all the file. And then the other ones, we are like trying to use a lot of USD now that is working with other softwares better. In Blender it's working some time ago, but I think it's a really good shareable format to get. And then the other part is when we don't receive any 3D model, we only have reference of the architecture, that this could be DVG or CAD drawings, or even like photos of the floor plan. I will not cover that because it will be like a normal put in an image and copy on top. So when we get this kind of stuff, we have two options. We can get the DFX from the client, or one option that is a kind of free version from Autodesk is the DVG viewer. So what we do is just here, the good thing is like you can hide layers or just manipulate a bit the file so you don't get all the information again. And we kind of plot it as PDF. Once we have the PDF, we can stay in the open source environment and go to Inkscape. And once you have it here as a vector, you can export or save it directly as SVG. and that could be directly imported into Blender as a SVG. So from this point, it's starting to model in like in a normal way. That normal way, we have different ways in architectural visualization. Mainly, we use this plugin that I would like to know this person because it's an amazing. It's called Archipack. Before the people, one of the developers that is doing like the grease pencil stuff, he was working in Archimesh. That we are missing him because he was doing a great stuff with this kind of parametric architectural stuff. But then Archipack is getting updated all the time, and it's really powerful tool for use parametric things for building architecture. In this case, I wanted to show a bit that we can use the mixed styles too. For example, the walls were like normal extruding XY from a plane and then extruding Z. Here is a bit of a nice procedure to have exterior walls and interior walls in a different layer, so because they have different heights and so on. Sorry, I will check the time. So yes. And in this example, and it's good to show now, like everything that is windows, railings, later on the floor is made with this plugin that is Archipack, that is everything procedural, and then depending the element, you can just start from spline, or you can start from scratch in like standalone window, standalone railing. This is the case. The good thing and the advantage to use parametric stuff is you can just change things, and then automatically everything gets updated, and it's super handy for dealing with this kind of back and forth with the client and some changes. The same add-on has these things for cabinets for kitchens too, so it's super handy, super easy. Again, it's all parametric, so you can just adjust, you change parameters, heights, counter height, and all like that, and make it super easy for move forward in these things, and sometimes it's some exploration included, so it's a very, very good, handy piece of add-on to have. Again, this is kind of a mixed technique. Here elements like a kitchen island, of course, we will model in a normal way, because that's the limit. Sometimes you cannot make some costume things or customize things with the parametric things, so you need to go and model. The good thing is always you have the chance to convert to mesh, normal mesh, and edit like in a normal vertex and edge and plane and face mode. The same thing with the floor here. Sorry, let's move a bit, but this is super handy because you just basically you draw the contour with a spline, with a curve, and then you just press the button that says floor, and then automatically make it for you. So you can randomize plank size or the tiling, or if you have a particular pattern of the tiling, you can work with that. And again, it's always the chance that convert it into mesh and edit it as needed. This is the part that I'm talking about being tidy and organized. So this is important not just for if you work in a team to have a same language on different files so you understand where you can find stuff. But it's super handy. For example, here I highlighted the part that we have the assets. The assets are the furniture and all decoration we have in the interior. Mainly we render everything in GPU, so it's important to keep it separated more if it's not visible in the camera, so we can hide it in the view layer and it's not contributing to the final RAM consumption. So last year we were working with 24 gigs of RAM, so that was quite limited for kind of like dense meshes or high quality textures. So this is super important to separate it for the view layers, to have it tidy like that. Texturing. Well, texturing, like I always say that we are the worst in the CGI industry. We are the architectural visualization, because it's like we are not from this field, so we don't know how texture perfectly or how to model perfectly. Like, we just put things together just to look nice. Then with the time you learn some things, but so it's super important to have a really good library of different collections, so you can have all ready there for when you need it, because for different reasons you never had exactly the same texture you need, because the specification requirement needs like a specific wood or a specific fabric. So having like this as starting point helps a lot to put the things on the way and just then work over them. A lot of them are procedural collections, different kind of COO websites with textures. We use a lot the first two. And then the other thing is, like, probably we will need to, or sometimes we build our own texture, but that's the fewer of the cases that we can use softwares to do like this kind of specific textures, but most of the cases with this is enough, and some tweaks should work perfectly. So this is the examples of Sanctus library. It's a really good library with all of this is parametric, so a lot of things you can customize in the way you need. I really like it because it gives you that flexibility of adapt the texture, the main texture on your needs. The down here is not as realistic sometimes as like texture-based PBR, but I think as PBR is super good too, and depending on the level of close-up you have in the image, right? So here is, for example, we use it for the terrace on the island countertop and in the kitchen countertop. And basically, the setup they have is they have a main node with all the main settings, the mapping, but mainly it's kind of this easy setup. If you want to get crazy with the nodes, you can just dive in that one. I will not recommend it, but. And then the other one collection we use a lot is the Materialic, is from the people from Polygonic. It's a super nice. I mainly use a lot the wood, concrete, because it gives you in the parameters these two main nodes are super useful. The one in the left is dedicated to the mapping. And that's super important because, for example, in the floor, when I show and it's the same object with different planks, this allows you just to randomize the UVs per plank. You can change a bit the size. You can decide if you wanted the mapping per object or per the whole element. So that's super handy. And then here you have all the other parameters, and then you can change the tone of the wood. So it's like one material, but gives you a lot of flexibility in that sense. Here is used in the cabin of the wood of the cabins. Then polyhaban, I think everyone knows it because the HDRIs. It's super useful. I bought the add-on they are selling that you have all polyhaban in your asset browser. That's super useful. So I encourage everyone to use the asset browser. Is for our discipline is really handy. You drag and drop. It's amazing how fast you can go if you have the correct library set. And then I don't know if this is super known, but it's Lily Surface Scrapper. But it's super handy too for when you don't find textures. You can go to. Here is the developer, I think it's Ellie Mitchell. So the way to work with this is like you go to any of that sites it's working with, you copy link the link from the web browser, and then you put import from clipboard and automatically create all the nodes for you and apply it to the material, the selected object. So I think that's quite handy for us sometimes. It lets you pick the quality of the texture. So what I say here is if it's not something that you know you will have a close-up shot, with 2K is more than enough. People get crazy with that, and then the render doesn't fit in the GPU. So it's, I think at first I will keep it super low resolution and then increase it in case you need it with a close-up or something like that. So mapping, as I said before, like we are not mapping specialists. So mainly we use cube projection or smart UV project. And then when we need, of course, we unwrap it with a smart UV most of the cases, and when we tweak in the UV editor. But it's kind of for more specific spaces that you need the wood in some certain way. So, but basically, as moving fast is cube projection, we adjust the scale and that's it. Assets. So here I divided in three main categories. Mainly is for exterior, for interiors, and then for more like nature landscapes that sometimes happens to have. So for exterior assets, we mainly, they are like car, trees, or like urban things. We use mainly these collections. I think the most known for cars are transportation and traffic, and for trees we use vegetation, botanic. Here we have the creator of the of the Growth 3D. That is an amazing tool for when we need like some specific kind of tree that you don't find. That's the thing. You can have thousands of assets in your library, and then the one you need is not there. So having this tool is really handy because I will just go a bit back now. So in this case, we had to, this is in my city, we have like London plains, we call it Latano, but it's by the season, like we trim it, like, and then it's like a super particular shape that is more bulky, then it's just the branches, like super thin branches coming. So we try to replicate that, and because it's super fun to use, that's the excuse actually. So you place an object that is at the grove, and then you select the kind of presets, the tweaks. In the web page, you have like a lot of scan tweaks. It's amazing too. And so we have the London plane, and then you just put grow, and it's growing, and then you just tweak it to your needs with a prune or bending. So it's super nice because even you can composite the scene with the add-on and just move the branches. Okay, it's like hiding at too much the building. So it's super nice and handy. Of course, not always you have the time to do this kind of stuff for all the projects, but it's something nice to have. So then we have, for the trees, we used a Terrascape that is super nice quality of the textures and the lighting of the things. And for the urban assets, we use mainly that collections that are super nice too. Again, asset browser, drag and drop to the position you need is as easy as that. Then mainly of the collection, they put it in their own collection when you do like that. And then we reorganize it in another one. So basically we will have cars and all the different collections of the model. And the same from the urban spaces, you have bollards, even like you have this kind of decals for the asphalt. So it's important to kind of have all these assets ready, right? So mainly this is how it looks. We play a lot with that just to enrich the reflections, to make the shadows where we need. So that's a bit of the playing on when we work in the outside and propping and putting the assets on the exterior shots. This is what I talked before. And then the last category, I would just call it the scatter systems. Of course, they are a lot based on the model of the trees and so on. But this is super important for these kind of big exterior shots that you have a lot of nature. Like, that was one of the things, like it was keeping us from moving to Blender at some point because it's super important to have a good scatter system, and then with geometry nodes and all the stuff, and then we have one button ready solution. This like mainly we use these two, that is GeoScatter and Bagapie Scatter, and then but again we come back to the asset library thing, and it's important to have a lot of different variations. The B production guys are doing this even like different skies, so it's like volumetric clouds that you can change to your need. So simple, you just pick a plane, select the biome you want to put, and then almost automatic. Of course, you can tweak a lot of parameters. I will not dive into that, but it's like you can vertex paint. There's a lot of things you can do just to edit them. For interior assets, this is another one that is, you need a lot of assets. So I am encouraging all the time to people to do more assets or more collections, because it's what I say before, you never have the one you need, for sure, for one reason or the other. So the more models we have around, I think it's one of the things that was difficult at the very beginning. The collections and assets were not made for Blender mainly, so at the very beginning was a lot of kind of transforming the materials, adapting to the models to Blender, and that took a lot of time. So with these collections, it's super handy now and much more easy to build a quick representation. So it's again the same thing. You have it, if the collection is correctly done, you will have all categories. You can filter by categories, drag and drop, and just drop it to the file. ArchTV is a collection we developed internally for different reasons to cover our needs, and we started this like 4 years ago. So now the collection is dedicated more for living room, dining, and bedroom, but then we just find that probably we can just put it out to other people too. So that's, I think, for October, November, we are just trying to release that. I say that we did this for our needs because a lot of the things working as in the set browser, the correct way to do it will be link the object, so you don't append it and you don't have more geometry on the file, because there are a lot of props there. But the thing is, like, when you link it, you cannot modify it properly. There is like the library overrides, but so we find a way with this kind of add-on we developed too to tweak some of the parameters like color, hue, value of some of the materials to have some adjustment without the need to append the file into the main file. So that will keep the file in a low weight and is better for rendering. And then we explored a bit, for example, here in the left, we have the lamp. And then even if it's an append object, we use library override to modify the geometry node setup that makes the lamp go higher or lower, again, without the need to append in the model to the scene. So it seems something that is not huge, but to keep the file in a low weight, let's say, is like much better. So yeah. It's important, it doesn't matter if you just append the object or not. If you did that, just duplicate and link it, or duplicate, link it the collection. That's the best way to keep everything like low RAM, and the file is like much lighter too. So this is a really good practice. Duplicate linked collections is super useful too when you have several objects that you need to modify it after, and then you need to copy them. You duplicate the collection, and then whatever change you do inside that collection will update everything. So lighting and composition. So at least for us, this is one of the most fun parts, because it's when you start to see everything what you did. It's like start to come into life. It doesn't mean that the other parts were boring, but this is kind of when you start to see the results. We love this add-on. It's called Photographer. This allow us to have all the cameras in one place. You can quickly switch from one camera to the other without need to go to scene, change the camera there. You do it from this kind of panel in the add-on, and then you can store the resolution, exposure, depth of field per camera. So you change one camera to the other, and you just keep the setup you have. So that for us is like really time saver. and it's continuously been under development, and I mean, now I will not know how to work properly without this. And then you have the ability to use the view layers, is what I mentioned before. So in view layers, you pick the layers that are the collections or things that are visible in that layer. So even when you are doing like detail shots, you can just copy stuff, hide it for that camera. So it's like a super handy way of organizing the file and the scene. Something what we need to dive on this is in using scenes for that, but we were afraid that probably it's too heavy to duplicate all the scenes. So with this is like a really good solution to do. And then in the lighting, it's important the light direction. Like, seems something silly to say, but like a good tip is always at the very beginning try the light 90 degrees from the direction of the camera. That will ensure you more or less that you will have some volume in the image. But the shadows, as I show in the assets for the exterior, is like shadows are basically texture in the image, right? It's like blacks, whites, so helps a lot to build the image. So it's important what we put behind the camera for the shadows and for the reflections, right? So here, mainly for day shots, is putting like sky texture in the environment, use Nishita San, play with that. The skies, we replace it in post-production mainly, so like I will not go crazy with the HDRI at the beginning, except you are just looking for something super specific, and saves a lot of time too. And for dusk shots, is a bit the opposite. What you want to show is the light coming from the building, being the point of interest. So what we do is like use the skylight from the sky texture. Just try to put a bit more blue, having this kind of famous blue-orange contrast, and just to pop up the building and interiors. Here is an example that how we use, we try to name the textures. So we play with different sky textures to try different options and quickly swap from one to other. We have different suns for each camera. Sometimes we have 10 cameras and 10 different sun setups. And it's a super quick way to do it. It's just plug one on the other. And here what I mentioned with the light direction, I think in this one is much boring, let's say. Here you can have light in the sofa, so volumes are start to kind of catch up in the image. For composition, mainly we don't composite in Blender because mainly we don't need much composition. It's not like VFX. So what we see, we try to be the closer as the final image, but we use it for this kind of effects like glare, or like later we use it for like this amazing tool that is Cryptomatte. We always render with Cryptomatte because we store it in the multi-layer EXR files. So even if you close render wherever, you can just recover from the compositor the EXR file, and then you recover the Cryptomatte data. If you now you have a change that is like requires a mask, you can use it from there already. So it's a super handy. We always use the object and material. They're more flexible for us. Then it's simple in the compositor. You go on the pick node, it gives you this kind of different random colors. Then you pick with the pointer, and then you just plug the mask, and then you have the mask. This is black and white. You can do it RGB if you want, but usually that's more than enough and works. It's a proper way of do masking, because in another software they use like random ID colors, and it's not proper. There is kind of the anti-aliasing is not working, and this works, for example, very well with the depth of field too. So it's like a super powerful tool. And in terms of composition, we will not dive into composition, like level of importance of the object and whatever, but it's always important to keep these 3 layers in the image. That helps a lot, foreground, midground, and background. If you keep these elements, you will have a lot of depth in the image always. So that's an important thing to have in mind. Rendering and post-production. So this is our Frankenstein, and It changed. I showed it last year. It changed a bit. Actually, now we have a 5090 and a 4090 in the same setup in the same year. Now it's only working the 5090 because they have some different compatibility problems, so we are working on that. Potentially, we will put another 5090, and then the limitation will not be the 24 gigs, because the huge thing about the 5090 is how now has 32 gigabytes. That seems it's not a huge thing, but it's 8 gigabytes more to load things into the memory. And the difference with the CPU, like we can render 4K images in 15 minutes, like photorealistic, and then with the CPU it's like 1 hour, 1 hour 20. So like we try to fit everything in the GPU. That's the conclusion. It's a huge difference for us, and that lets you experiment much more with the lighting, and at the end, that's kind of improvement, right? More or less, we use all the time these parameters. We can change sometimes the supported by experimental, because the adaptive subdivision from the displacement is still experimental, so we use it quite sometimes. And then we use GPU, as I mentioned before. Usually we go for final image with 1,000 samples. That means should always be enough. If the image is still noisy, it's because something is weird with the materiality, or some light is making problems. And then we go 12 with all parameters to not have any problem with any transparent or volume things. We disable the clamping on the indirect light, because that's helpful for reducing the noise in the final image, but sometimes it's clamping too much and you lose a bit of the sparking white you should have from the secondary bounces, right? So we try to play with that. If the image is super noisy for some reason, we can activate it, but we try to keep it as 0 too. And then now we use AGX, but we were discussing the other day with some colleagues, like color management is a huge thing in Blender. Now it's coming assets, but I think at the end, the Cycles is a really, really good render engine. I think it's not different to the commercial ones at all in terms of they use similar algorithms. So the final result is about color management, and then we finish that in post-production anyway. We do curves and all that stuff. And this is how we save the files. For the beauty pass, mainly we don't use the EXR to avoid all this kind of working in 32-bit software. So if the image looks, we know that looks more or less correct, we save it in 16 bits and in PNG, the beauty, and then we keep all the other layers in the EXR file, just in case as we need the mask or any other pass. And then we do just the post-production. The post-production, we do it in Photoshop still. We try with Krita. We are still in trying to use it for this. We use a lot Krita, but more for concept, sketching and all that stuff when in that part of the process. And here we can dive a lot into this post-production, but mainly I will explain that we do like the camera raw filter. It's important to always have the beauty as a smart object here, so you can use smart filters and modify it from there, come back if you need to adjust something. So the main key values on the camera raw are just pushing a bit out the shadows and just give some clarity and texture. And then, of course, you have adjustment layers that a lot of the vignette and all this stuff, put focus point, enhance a bit like some curves, helps a lot to the final. And this is what I talk, like actually if we count color management, this will be our last part of the color management, right, of the image. Conclusion. Mainly everything I say is wrong in terms of order and all that stuff. I mean, we organize it here just to be tidy and organized, but all of this process happen all together almost all the time. Like you are modeling a part, you are texturing the part, probably sometimes you need to start placing the camera and then just starting to put the objects and the things that compose the image, but it's important to have clear what you are doing at the moment. Sometimes it's time to just move forward. The client has a clear idea of what camera they want, so you build up on that camera. Sometimes they don't have it much clear, so you start from the outside in. You just do the walls, you start to prop, and that's the thing. So be creative, try new tools. They're all the time here. One of the things I do almost every day is just I look for new tools that can help you. It's a lot of people doing cool stuff, developments. One thing I didn't mention here is Gaussian splatting, photogrammetry. They are super helpful for environments. It's kind of been progressing a lot all the time. So thank you all. Thank you for attending here. And thank you to all these people, mainly Blender, to make this happen and make possible that we are able to work with this open software that is super powerful. And honestly, I always say the same thing. We were working in the other software, and now we have Shoei doing it. So that's something amazing. Another important thing to say is like what Blender gives us is like the tool. So what we do with the tool is the important thing, right? And when you have paid software, it's not in that way. So that's an amazing thing to have in this, with this software and this community. So thank you, everyone, and all the people here. So I think I made it in time, but I don't know if anyone has any question or something that I can. Of course, it was super fast. A lot of things were in the way, but if anyone has any question, I will be happy to answer. Good. I was super clear then. So thank you everyone.